Hello friends and welcome. You may remember a few weeks ago I posted on my community post a video I wanted you to watch where a lady was making bells out of old light covers for ceiling fans and spindles. Well, I'm jumping on the trend because I've seen several people make them since, and I'm going to put my spin on it and make my own version of them. So let's get started. Let's see what I can come up with.
These are the 5 glass globes I picked up at Habitat for Humanity for only $1 a piece. I tried to get a variety of sizes, shapes, and styles. So let's see which one I'm going to do first. First of all, I chose this one that looks like it had berries on it. Well, we're going to make them look like berries. And then I have this beautiful spindle. I'm going to take them outside and I'm going to spray paint them. And this is what they look like. I spray painted the spindle black and I spray painted this beautiful globe white. And then I'm going to use those other pieces a little bit later on. We're just going to move them out of the way. I'm going to use English Ivy and Barn Red. Both are Dixie Belle paints. And this Barn Red was a little bit dried up, but it worked good because I needed it to be a little bit thick. I'm just going to go in with this little flat paint brush and I'm going to paint all of these berries. We're just going to call them berries and greenery, okay? Just for the sake of this video. Now this was kind of fun. I just put on a little podcast with a daily devotion on it and listened to it while I painted away. And it went by pretty quickly. I did do 2 coats. I did 1 coat and it wasn't the coverage that I wanted. And then I just went back and just put a light coat on for the second coat. Same way with the green and these beautiful little leaves. I just took that little flat brush. I did take a smaller brush and do the sides, and then I did the tops with this flat brush. I just got a little rhythm down and did my little pattern to get them painted, and it didn't take that long at all, and it turned out really pretty. Now when I finished this and got them all painted up, I set it aside and started to work on this little piece that's going to be the piece that we put the spindle on, attach the spindle to the top, to the base. And this was one of those bases to a bottle brush tree that I popped off to put the bottle brush tree into something else. I'm going to take my drill, and this is going to be the same way that I put all the pieces together in this video. I drill a hole in the bottom of the spindle and a hole through here, and this is how we're going to attach our little dinger bell, the little clanger. I'm sure it has a technical name, but that's what we're going to call it. And I took some dark wax, and I thought I was just going to put some dark wax on this, and the dark wax took the spray paint off, but only in certain places. And so I really, really liked how that looked. It really was like almost like a wet distress, but spray paint should not do that. So then I took my finger sander and sanded it a little bit in a few places where I thought it looked like it needed to be distressed. I really love how this little spindle turned out. Now I had this little pull in my stash that I got in a box of, just little random hardware, and I thought it would be really cute on the top of this. So I just drilled a hole and stuck it down in there, and I think it's going to be really cute on there. Now I didn't really like how white this looked and how stark everything looked. So I decided to take some dark wax, and I wasn't real sure how the dark wax was going to do with the spray paint, but it worked out swimmingly. So I just smeared it all over there, a lot of it with this makeup brush, and got it all down in the nooks and crannies and crevices and details. And I used quite a bit, and I just got it was messy. You can see I have that glove on my hand because it was messy. And then I just took my little piece of a t-shirt and I just wiped it back, and it's beautiful. I mean, it turned out so pretty. It really darkened it up, and just look at it. It looks very, very pretty. Okay, now we're going to glue this little piece because the spindles wouldn't fit in there, right? So we had to have it's almost like a washer. So we're going to put some Titebond Quick and Thick. Well, this is what I do on the ends of my twine to get it through the beads. I twist a little bit of tight bond in there. So I decided I was going to put 2 beads in here, a big one and then a small one on the end. Not sure why. But first I decided I'm going to put some dark wax on it. You're really not even going to see the beads as the little clanger, but this is the only one of the 5 that I colored the beads. And one of them I used a bead that was already stained. They came that way. But anyway, I don't know why I'm telling you all this. I don't really know why I'm showing you this. I guess because this is the only one I really am showing you how I do this process, because I do it the same on all of them. And I just tie a knot in the end so the beads don't come off. I put a little bit of tight bond in there to keep that knot from coming loose. Then I put a little tight bond at the base of the knot where the bead sits down on it, so that it's just going to sit there. And then I do trim off that excess twine at the bottom. Then I tie a knot at the top, so the beads are not going to go anywhere. They're just going to sit in between those 2 fat knots. And then I'm going to feed it through, and then I'm just tying lots of knots. I'm telling you, I'm tying lots of knots. And I see how long I want it to hang down, and then I cut that little excess off, and then I'm going to put some hot glue in that big hole that I've created, because I didn't get it right in the center. And I decided to get out the Fix-All, super glue Fix-All, and I'm going to use some of that. And did I use hot glue or tight bond? Let's see. I can't remember. I did several different methods with gluing these down. Sometimes I ended up just using tight bond in the end because it worked just as well. The key is just don't move it till it's dry, because the hot glue really doesn't work. It just pops right off. You know, hot glue and glass, it just doesn't work good together. So I'm just wiping off all that oozed out the sides. And now what am I going to do? I'm going to put a little hot glue in the inside right there, just because, I guess. Just because I can, or just because I wanted to. I thought that was going to help matters. I'm going to trim off that excess there, and then I'm going to have a big enough hole in that spindle that little knot can go up in the hole, if that makes sense. Now I'm going to just smooth this little bit of tight bond out, and then I'm going to put my hot glue right in the center there. Now we're doing wood to wood, so this will be a little better. Now I made a mess because my spindle was smaller, so I had to go back in and clean all that up. We're going to just use some tight bond to glue this little handle. We're not going to be carrying it around by this little hook. It's just for looks. So we can just put a little tight bond in there. Then we're going to take some twine. I had 2 different sizes of this jute twine. So the thicker one I'm going to put in that little indention. But first I'm going to take this. This one comes apart really easily. So I just put a little bit of hot glue in there and twisted it just to keep it together. And then I'm going to use the Fix-All and hot glue to glue this down. And I'm just going to use a little bit of Fix-All, a little bit of hot glue, a little bit of Fix-All. And I don't know why I'm going so slow. I should have sped this up a little bit. Sorry, guys. But this is the method that I'm going to use. If you see that I did this on any of the bells later in the video, you'll know that this is the method that I used. I did the same thing for that smaller, thinner jute cord around the other little indention just above that. And so it has 2 little places where we have the jute cord on it. And you're going to see that just shortly. But after I secure this all down with some hot glue, and my fingers are all sticky in case you can't tell. And I love to use my little silicone spatula when I'm using hot glue. Now, this is optional, of course, always, but I love to burn off all those little fuzzies off the jute twine. Now, look how good this is looking. I'm loving how it's looking. But, of course, we need some chiffon ribbon. So I took some black chiffon ribbon because I thought that looked good. I just tied a little bow in it. And I believe it's done. I believe this is all that I did to it. I tied a bow, and then I tied an extra little piece around the bottom so it would have some extra little long tails hanging down. And voila! You'll have to let me know what you think about this one. Okay, this one is super simple. I'm just taking some clear wax. I'm going to wax this spindle to bring out that beautiful wood tone. Now where I cut it off, I'm going to put some dark wax and then clear wax on top of it. And then I'm going to buff out all the excess wax, and look how gorgeous this spindle is. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And then this particular globe I painted with silver spray paint. And then I'm just going to take some Titebond Quick and Thick and a little bit of hot glue, which very redundantly telling you it doesn't do any good. Just should have just done the Titebond Quick and Thick and just let it dry. It does dry quick. And so I should have just done that, but here we go anyway. I'm going to glue that down. As you can see, it makes a cute little jingle for our jingle bells. Now we're going to use our Titebond to adhere the spindle to the base, making sure that we get that little knot up in that hole that we drilled right there. So I'm going to put a lot of hot glue in there and then get that knot up in there in that hot glue. And then I'm going to hold it down for just a few minutes or a few seconds, and then I'm going to take this red, it's like baker's twine I got after Valentine's Day one year at, I want to say Target. And then I had this little snowflake in my stash, and I'm just going to put it on here in this. I don't think I got on camera that I put that beautiful chiffon ribbon in a red and white on there. This just screams Christmas winter to me. And I have red and white and like snowy Christmas in my decor, so it's going to match beautiful. I was inspired to make this one for my sister-in-law, who has a beautiful Christmas decor. And so she has some gold and some beautiful neutral earthy looking tones and some wood tones. And so I wanted to make her one. She requested that I make her one when I told them that I was going to make these. And so I'm making this one for her. So I'm just showing you that I cleaned everything up really good, and I'm going to use my sander, little finger sander, and get some of the little bit of this. It was just really kind of dirty, and so I just really wanted to get some dirt off more than anything. And then I used my little heat gun to heat this little rubber piece on there, and it came off pretty easily, but I didn't really stress out too much about it because I knew I was going to put some twine or something around it. Now, you've seen me use this in the last bell. What am I making here? But it's just a little ornament that I got in a pack of several, and I just cut that little part off of it. So I'm going to use the Dark and Decrepit, and I'm going to just paint it with that so that it matches the rest of this, like it'll match the spindle, so it'll like go along with everything else. And so it turned out really good. It turns out really cute. And I have to be careful because I didn't want to get that on the back of it because I need it to be able to adhere to that base. So just like everything else, I'm going to use Tite Bond and hot glue and Fix All and all the things with that method with the hole and the knot, and yeah, same thing on all of them. So with this one, oh yeah, same thing. I'm going to use that thicker jute cord, and same method. I'm showing you again and again. Sorry about that. But I'm going to just twist it with some hot glue in there. I'm going to use some Fix All super glue adhesive. I'm going to put a little bit down, and then I'm going to put the jute cord in there. Then I'm going to put a little hot glue. I'm going to put a little hot glue first. Then I'm going to put that jute cord in there, and then I'm going to go all the way around doing that same method. And hopefully that's going to hold that in there really nice and tightly. And I could have done a little less embellishing on this one. I went a little overboard. I got a little carried away, and I really like to keep things a little more on the simple. I don't really like to use a lot of ribbon and bows and big bows and lots of greenery and stuff, but I really got carried away on this one. I just decided to wrap this piece of ribbon around the neck of it in this manner. My sister actually gave me these two pieces of ribbon when I said, hey, I'm making this project for Rachel. Do you have any ribbon that will match her decor? Because I don't. Because we don't have the same taste, and that's okay. I just didn't have any ribbon. And so my sister did. She brought me these ribbons, and I was very, very thankful. So they're very pretty, and they work really well for this project. So I'm just showing you how I'm making this bow here. I just made a couple loops. I glued them together a little bit, just put a couple little dots of glue in there, and then while the glue was still hot, I scrunched it up. I'm pulling them up to make sure they're the same size on each side. I'm going to take those tails from the back, and then I'm going to put a piece of jute twine in the middle and tie it in a knot. Tie a knot in the back. Cinch it up, tie a knot. Well, at some point I'm going to do that. Yep, here we go. Cinch it up, tie it in a knot. I'm going to tie it really tight. Then I'm going to cut off those little excess pieces, and then I'm going to fluff it. And then I decided I didn't like that. I needed a little more. But I didn't have enough ribbon to make a huge bow, and I didn't really need to make a huge bow. But then I decided I'd add 2 more loops, so I added 2 more loops, and I attached it the same way with some more jute twine. And then I had just wrapped it around a few times, so it would have that little jute twine in the middle, which I really like that look. I'm just going to put a bunch of hot glue there and glue it down. Now, that would have been enough, right? That would have been gorgeous. That would have been fine, Kendra. That would have been fine. But no, I couldn't let it go. I had these beautiful gold pip berries, and I just needed to use them. So I thought I'll wrap them around the spindle. And that looked really pretty. So here we go. I just glued it at the base, tucked it behind that ribbon, and then just wrapped it around the spindle, and then just kind of tucked it in itself at the top. Snipped it off with my little wire snippers, and then just tucked it in itself at the top. Gorgeous. Good enough. Nope, not good enough. I decided to make some curls. Curled it around a pencil, manipulated it. I made one for each side. Well, then that looked kind of weird by itself. So that wasn't enough. So then I grabbed some pine cones. You'll see me here in a second. That glue's got to dry first. Then I grabbed some little mini pine cones I had in my stash, and I start sticking mini pine cones everywhere. I'm just sticking them here, and I'm sticking them there. And, you know, it's like the more I put on there, the more I thought it needed. I thought, well, I'll just stick a couple on here. Well, then it was like, well, what about the top of it? Well, what about this part? Okay. Let me blow that hot glue to get it cool so it'll go ahead and dry. Well, then I needed a little twine bow on top. Then I needed to add a few more little pip berries here and there. I think it turned out absolutely beautiful. Let me know what you think. Every single video that I do has a little bump in the road. This was my bump in the road. This was my problem child. So I had spray painted that globe with some rose gold spray paint. I had this unique little chair spindle. It was part of a chair. And I thought I was going to use the star, but fear not, I did not. And so I sanded this down because it had a lot of loose, chippy shellac, lacquer, whatever that stuff is. And so I thought, well, I'll just knock it off. Well, then when I started knocking it off, I decided I wanted to just go ahead and just sand it down. And so, and you could really see the wood grain in there, like it was, like it had been out in the rain or something. And so I mixed up this color. I don't even remember what I used. I think I used some English ivy, some faded burlaps, a little bit of white. I don't know. I just painted a bunch of colors. And so that's my little washer. We're calling that a washer. And then I'm going to paint this entire piece, this spindle, with it. And then I'm going to cover up that hole. I was going to use the star, remember? But instead, I had a little piece that was like one of those little chalkboard place setting. I don't even know what it was. It came off of something. And I painted it the same color as well. I don't think I got that on camera. Here's where it went wrong. And I've tried to put transfers on this particular spray paint before. It doesn't work. I don't know what I was thinking that I was going to do it again. But I love this beautiful little transfer, and I thought it was going to be so cute on this rose gold, and it's going to be so easy. I was just going to pop this transfer on. I was going to pop that green spindle on top. I was going to just distress it a little bit. I wasn't going to distress it. I was going to wax it. Nope. Wasn't that easy. It's not transferring at all. Look. Nope. And then I couldn't even get that residue off. I worked and worked to get that residue off. Could not get the residue off. And the more I tried, the worse it got. But no fear. Those transfers still worked. Usually when I try to rub them and it doesn't work, then the transfer's ruined. Transfer was not ruined. I was able to transfer this onto the spindle. So I just worked my way around the spindle with this transfer, rubbing it down. I know you guys have seen me do lots of transfers, so you just rub it down and then peel the transfer sheet off, and voila, the beautiful transfer is left on your project. And I was having a little trouble getting that off there, but yeah, lots of tiny little details in this beautiful transfer. And so I find when there's lots of little details, you have to rub a little more intricately because, you know, all those little pieces need to get lots of attention. So this worked beautiful. I mean, it came out beautiful. And I love these little birds. It just reminds me of that scripture. You know, I'm saying on here a lot, but, you know, God says, you know, don't worry. He even takes care of the birds. You know, the birds they don't worry. And so we shouldn't worry either. He's going to take care of us, my friends. He's going to take care of us. And this is a season where we tend to worry and stress and get all uptight about things like there's not enough money or we're missing our loved ones, but we shouldn't worry. Let's just take our worries to the Lord. Okay, now I was being silly saying I am not using that star. Instead, I had this little, it was a little chalkboard place, you know, marker. and I just painted it that green, and then I'm just going to glue it over that hole. And then I'm going to take some of that transfer that was left, another piece of that transfer, and put it over this as well. Now I'm wiping that glue off because I realized I need the hot glue to go there. So I just wiped it off with a wet wipe and dried it down, and then I could put the hot glue on there. And it actually looks really good when I get done. So I decide which part of this transfer sheet that I'm going to use, and I cut it out, and I just transfer it down on there, just like I did the last piece. Just press it down, peel the transfer sheet off, and bada boo, bada bing, it looks fantastic. I'm just always so careful about peeling it off because, yeah, there was a little piece that was too long there, and I just snipped it off. Then I'm just going to burnish it down with my hands, and this is how she turned out. I think she's gorgeous. And then I'm going to take the Grunge Gray wax by Dixie Belle and just give it a good coat all over, and then take my little piece of a white t-shirt and buff it out. I just want that dark wax to get down in all those little crevices. Remember I said you could see the wood grain, and it was kind of like the wood grain is a little bit split, so that wax got right down in all those little wood grains, those little places where the wood was, weathered wood. That's what it is. Okay, then I cleaned this up. I tried to clean it up thinking that all that residue would get off there, but it did not. Did not do any good. So I got out the faded burlap and a pouncer sponge, and I just went to town. And I was taking a little bit of frustration out on this. I'm not kidding, because I was like, I do not have time. I was having a big party at my house that weekend, and while I'm doing this voiceover after the party, it just happened tonight, and I was trying to get ready for it, and I did not have time for my projects to not work out. I had them all planned out, and I just didn't have time. But I put this on pretty thick, and then as I dried it with the heat gun, it gave me some really cool texture. So I took the Grunge Gray, and I took an old chippy brush, and then wiped it back, and then I took my makeup brush that I like to use, and I did it in like a little circular motion and wiped it back, and I didn't get it all on camera, so I'm showing you what I did, but look at all that beautiful texture that I got from the sponge. Then I sanded that all the paint off so that I would have some texture, and then I put some Titebond on it. So that Titebond is what you see white on there, and then I'm just getting it off the inside and putting it back up on the top. And then we're going to put, I already have the little bead, you can see the little bead hanging there. I already have that all assembled together. I don't want to be redundant and show you every step of every single bell when it's exactly the same. And we're just going to let that be on there until it dries. And then we're going to take this beautiful ribbon you've been seeing me use all season that I got at Sam's Club, and we're just going to wrap it around and then make a little bow. I did do this a little different. Okay, this is the back, and I wanted it to be a little bit more narrow, but I didn't want to cut it. So this is what I did. I just kind of folded it down here in the back. I just folded it over itself, but I left like so the edges were like this. I mean, it doesn't look like it's supposed to be that way, but it looks good. And so then I just flipped it over and then brought it to the front, snipped off the excess and glued it down, snipped off the excess. Let me get myself in order here. And then I did the same thing to the other side. And then when I got that all done, I made a little bow, made me a little double loop finger bow, and we're just going to glue that right down in the center. And I think this one's done. I think that's all I did to this one. Let's see. Let's see if I did something else. No, I think I added some greenery and berries because I love the berries and the little birdies. Yeah. So I had these in my stash. I love these, but I didn't like the greenery so much. So I got some of those little garland ties that I got from, I don't know, maybe Hobby Lobby or Dollar Tree. I'm not sure. And I'm just going to poke them in all the little folds of this bow with a little hot glue. And then I've snipped some even shorter and put some little shorter ones, and I snipped those little berries off. I'm just going to glue them here and there. And yeah, I love this one. In the end, I love it. This little globe may look kind of simple and innocent, but don't let it fool you. I took it outside and spray painted it with a matte black spray paint, and just wait till you see what we do. I am going to sand and scuff that up a little bit so that we can get some texture for the glue to stick to. And then, of course, I had to clean it up because I had sawdust everywhere. And now I'm going to take Golden Rule by DIY and a paintbrush. And I am going to paint this bad boy all over. Now, it doesn't give you full coverage. It's not a paint. It is a wax. It's like a rub and buff. It's a rub and buff-ish. And so I painted it all over, and then I went back over with my finger and just rubbed it in. And it is beautiful. Let me tell you, this is so pretty. Then I'm going to put my little washer, my little wooden washer on there, and smooth that. And I ended up, like I'm telling you, I ended up just using Titebond in the end. I'm going to get all that excess glue off of there, and then I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to set it aside and let it dry. I mixed up this really pretty, creamy paint. I used the paint that I used earlier, and then I added a little crinoline to it. And I painted this spindle, and I painted some really thick areas to it, and then used the heat gun on it, and I got some really interesting, like, crackle and texture to it. And then I took this little, I think this is a knob, a 1.5 inch knob. I think that's where I bought it on Amazon. And I'm taking Cherry Picked from DIY, really pretty deep dark burgundy, and painting it. Now I already put that little, it already had a hole in it because it was a knob. And so I put that little piece of a skewer in there so I could have something to hang on to while I painted it. Then I'm going to go in and put that Golden Rule on that part that's going to show on our little washer. Then I'm going to feed my little clinger through there and attach it just like we've done all the rest of them. And I'm pretty sure we waxed this bad boy with something. Let's see what we do. Let's see what we do. Maybe I just clear waxed it. We're going to put some, well, I did this the opposite way that I did another one. The other one I put hot glue in the hole. This one I did Titebond in the hole. Oh, and here we go with some beautiful, beautiful velvet ribbon. So pretty. And then I took one of those little, laser cut stars you can get at Dollar Tree. And I cut a little piece of that velvet ribbon and fed it through that hole, one of those holes in there. Just figured out where I wanted it to hang. And then I cut like a little angle at the top so I could just, instead of wadding it up, it would just sit up in there a little bit better. And so I glued the two pieces together. Then I put some glue in there right up underneath that bow. And I took this little picker tool and just stuck it up under there. And that's all I did to this one. But it is absolutely gorgeous. Let me know what you think.
Thanks for watching, friends. Let me know which one of these was your favorite. Do you think I did them justice? Leave me a comment down below. Give me a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed. But most of all, I want you to remember to be still and know that He is God.